You're on there.
I'm on.
You're not free. People get carried away, just ask me trouble. That's so happy. I guess.
Good evening. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the City of South Daytona Council to order. Today is Tuesday, October 23rd. It's pretty close to 6 p.m. Please, I can get a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Young.
Here.
Councilwoman Long. Here. Councilwoman O'Neill. Here. Councilman Schoner.
Here.
Mayor Hall.
Here.
Mr. Simpson.
Here.
Mr. Yarborough.
Present. Everybody would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation of the clerk.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening to thank you for all the many blessings. We ask that you continue to bless this community, this country. We say, God, be with this group this evening, the elected officials, as they make important decisions that hopefully will make this a better place for you, your vision of us here. In your name we pray. Amen.
I need a motion for approval of City Council minutes for September the 25th, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to go out of order here. I guess that's why I get to hold the gavel. But I have a little presentation I'd like to make. Nancy, can I move it to you? Jeannie and I discussed it, and rather than us go down there, we're going to do it here for the city seal and background. That's okay? Move a few chairs around. Go further, Scott. I had to figure it out. There we go. All right. So we have a plaque here. It says Councilwoman Nancy Long, presented by her colleagues, in recognition of dedicated service of outstanding contributions to the residents of South Daytona during a 13-year tenure serving as vice mayor and council member from 2005 to 2018. Presented today, October 14th.
Thank you.
So,
It's beautiful, too. Oh. Thank you. Wow.
and they're from all of us, okay?
Oh.
I just get the opportunity to bring them, give them to you.
Thank you so much. Wow. Let me take one more
Okay.
in case. Perfect.
I'm going to miss y'all.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you, everybody. Wow.
We're on the item on the agenda called Citizens to be Heard. Comments on any issue or agenda item or anything in the world that's bothering you. Now is your opportunity. Please come up and speak. Good evening.
Good evening.
If you would state your name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Kathleen Banker.
Could you pull that up a little bit? There you go, Kathleen.
Banker,
Thank you.
1930 South Ridgewood Avenue, South Daytona, 32119. Who is in charge of the timing on the crosswalks for citizens, the people that walk?
On US 1?
Yeah, on Ridgewood. Who's in charge of the signals and the little crosswalks there? Because a normal person, I mean, I have a walker. I can't get across Ridgewood before the turn lane on Big Tree turns green, and those cars just do not pay attention, and a normal person cannot completely cross. There's not enough time for a normal person to cross that street. A woman with a stroller with a baby can't cross the street. We have already had one citizen hit. When the guy hit him, he got out of his car and said, "Oh, I didn't see you, man." I mean, there's got to be some kind of time to where a person can get across without that turn lane being turned green, that arrow so that they can turn. It's just
Okay,
dangerous.
well, let us look into it. Mr. Gerber,
It's a DOT time, it's standard time that's prescribed by law. But that doesn't mean that we can't reach out to DOT and ask them to extend it. Is there one particular that you're having trouble with?
Ridgewood and Big Tree.
Ridgewood and Big Tree.
Yep.
There's two
Exactly.
then on US 1. Crossing north and south?
Yes, going across Ridgewood, like from my side, which is this side, over to the other side,
From east to west?
and going the other way also. Either way, you don't
So
have
you just
time.
need more time to maneuver.
Yeah.
Well, I don't, I wish you weren't crossing.
I wish I wasn't either, but
All right.
because those people just do not pay attention.
We'll reach out. Thank you.
I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Richard Tarrant. I live at 905 Wells Drive in South Daytona. There's been an issue with articles or construction, rocks, trees, whatever, in the city right-of-way or the city section, parkage between the sidewalk and the street, which I understand that there is a code that says nothing is supposed to be in there except for sod. In front of my house, I have 2 crepe myrtles that have been there for well over 30 years. They're at both ends of my property in the city easement. And I'm asking, today to see if there is some way that we can save those trees. I do accept the fact that there is an ordinance against putting something out there. But these trees have been there since long before I think this ordinance was made. Maybe I'm wrong. I have hired an attorney to investigate it and see where I stand in the matter and where the city stands in this. I'm asking until the 13th meeting to have that much time before they come in to start taking down my trees. If it's something that is needed to be done, I'll accept that and we'll go on from there.
just so we're all clear, I spoke to Rick prior to the meeting, and I had to change Rick. The law says you're going to stop at the stop sign, stop at the stop sign.
I
If the
understand.
law says trees can't be there, then I got too many years invested in law enforcement to go back on something that's there.
Okay.
I get it that they've been there a long time, and I know I've had discussion with Mr. Yarborough, but it's, they're beyond bushes, and as we both know that it didn't start with you,
No.
but I sure hope it ends eventually.
I
The
pray
neighbors
to God
back-
that it
the
does.
neighbors back and forth,
Yes.
you're not the first one to come up and talk to us because of rocks and
Well,
rebar and
there's
whatnot.
one individual that's using the city for his own pleasure. So, and I understand that, and it's a shame that it's come to this. So, I'll accept whatever decision the council makes on this and move on.
Anyone else have any comment?
I drove around the city and just sort of did a check, and I know that we can stop new shrubs from being put in or new plantings, but I would suspect if you could figure out how old these are, I just wonder if we couldn't let some of these things be grandfathered, because we do have some beautiful trees and some, some beautiful flowering bushes that have grown. They've been there for so many years, and you're not supposed to park in the easements anyway. I don't see it like you have this well trimmed. It's not blocking the vision. So I would like to suggest that maybe some of these old plants could be grandfathered in. Now the rebar and the rocks, there's no beauty to those.
No.
But crepe myrtles, they're beautiful. So.
And those rocks haven't been there that many years either. Those were just, a few years being placed out there. I think, like I said, these trees are well over 30 years, probably longer than 40. But whatever the council decides, I'm willing to go ahead and do whatever you decide. But I'd really like to save those trees if possible. I know my wife would. I'll have to live with her, so that's all I have.
I'll make a couple of comments. I mean, I've been looking around the city as well, and I appreciate what you're saying, totally. They've been there a long time. Unfortunately, the canopy's out in the roadway, it's out there, and it's gotten so big. And the other reason we don't subscribe to letting stuff be planted in the right-of-way in the grass strip is because you got utilities there, you got water, sewer. Those roots, they're going to eventually wreak havoc on what's ever in there. They have I don't know if your sewer tap comes out in that area or not, but it's...
On the utilities for my property on the other side of that sidewalk, the sewer line is 10 feet from where the one tree is planted. And after 40 years being there, you would expect that there'd be some type of problem that was going to affect the plumbing or anything like that.
They keep getting bigger and bigger, but that's just comment.
These trees, the maximum height is 20 feet. They're at their maximum height. The canopy that you're talking about that hangs out over the street is trimmed up 10 feet above any vehicle that I know that's going to go through there, including the fire truck or the garbage truck. They don't hit it when they drive through there. The canopy also that I have on the elm tree in the middle of my property hangs out over the street, well, further than what those trees do. So, I understand what you're saying, but, and then every winter I cut those trees back to, like you do here in the city, in the median of US 1. So, they start back at that height and they don't continue hanging out over the street. I try to make sure that no vehicle comes close to it anything there. I maintain them the 30 years that I've been living.
Oh yeah, you definitely have. I mean, there's no question. It's just how do you make an exception like that?
I know. I understand we're between a rock and a hard place.
Rebar thrown in there.
Yeah. So, I was hoping that I would be prepared to come up and have my attorney's information with me because he's researching when those trees were put in there, when the code was established for the ordinance, and I was going to go with that information and approach you if necessary, but I was hoping that by November 13th I would be prepared for that. We can at least put off until then, if we can make a decision then unanimously, I'm all for it.
Let me ask the city attorney, put him in a rock and hard place, because I know lawyers always like not have all the facts and have to give an opinion. How does grandfathering in kind of thing, like in an ordinance comes in and those trees?
Typically, the grandfathering that we typically deal with is, where somebody engages in a use or there's a structure that has been built. The reason you grandfather, people invested money in reliance on a code that allowed a particular thing, then the code changes and that thing is no longer allowed. But they've spent money in reliance on the old code, so you allow them to continue that use or that structure under certain conditions. And so the reason you grandfather, and you don't have to grandfather, you just try to avoid a takings claim. That's the reason you grandfather. So that's why we do it. These are trees in the right of way, not on their property, on city's property, as I understand it. So that's a little different situation.
I also understand that, if it's in the city right away and you all need to do utility work or whatever, that they don't have to be replaced or anything because they're my trees supposedly, and I maintain the property out there. And I understand that, that's fine. But to just come in and take them down because they're just trees, just trying to hope that maybe we can say that they are beautiful trees. This is a tree city, I was hoping that we'd be able to say that. But are you making the ruling now, or are you going to give me the opportunity to November 13th to present?
Nothing's been decided.
I understand
And
that.
nobody's made a motion, nobody's suggested.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Can I at least have till November 13th, the next meeting, to make a final decision?
Can they be relocated? Are they too big?
Too big.
Too big?
Yeah, no way to.
Could I make a motion that, because this is not the only trees that I've seen, some of them are, and they're beautiful, and they're really all around the city growing in the easements. Maybe we could just say that, if they're 30 years or more, and we could grandfather them in.
I don't know if it's that easy to determine how many trees.
Yeah, how do we prove that?
Well, you can when you cut it down. Got that kind of piece of post. You count rings. So,
Yeah.
I'd like the answer to a couple of basic questions, like, for instance, if we were to say, it's okay, leave them there, and somebody crashes into them, they're so close to the road, is the city liable?
It depends on whether or not we can't allow something that clearly violates a city law or a state law. I mean, if there, this is the first I've heard of this whole thing, so I don't know if there's something that actually prohibits it. We can't allow someone to do something that's clearly prohibited. But if we make a policy decision to allow someone to keep something in a particular place, I don't think we're liable for that. I know there's plenty of places where trees are near the roadways. But what you can't do is you can't, if somebody runs into a tree, that's not automatically our fault. The tree cannot block a stop sign or a traffic light or something like that. That's a maintenance issue.
Right.
So it can't, we got to make sure that the visibility is good.
Let me tell you where your manager is. If you can't go in there and carve out an exception on planting stuff or putting stuff in the right of way because you like the person, the age of that shrub that turned into a tree. We got our hands full, as you can appreciate, trying to be fair and equal in the enforcement of law. And it doesn't matter whether I like it, it doesn't matter if it's in your yard, your right of way. We prohibit things from being put in the right of way for safety reasons. If we're going to say trees don't count, then you're going to need to have the votes to amend the ordinance to say trees don't count. Because I've got to enforce it, or whoever's going to be here. We raised our right hand to do that. So don't go in there and say all of a sudden, it's okay for real. That's what I don't want.
And I agree.
Exactly.
Understand the predicament it's going to put us in, and perhaps the liability it's going to put you in. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
If you want to leave trees, well, fine, we'll draft up an ordinance, bring it back to you. But when you get into grandfathering, I don't know how you grandfather things out in public property. That doesn't even work. So, what you're looking at is what is a common sense approach. Now, we have tried to stay away from things that are not between a sidewalk and a curb. You understand? If they're back still in the right of way, but they're back far enough, it's just one of those. That's kind of a common sense approach for enforcing the ordinance. You've got a situation where shrubs turn into trees, and they're not even parking room there, really, in between the sidewalk and curb. All I want to do is make sure that whatever decision that you all come up with, that is something that we can uniformly enforce. Okay? So let's get off grandfather. Let's go and talk about that. Let's talk about what is permitted in the right of way.
I can't make a motion, so
That's why I'm asking to go to November 13th so we can all think this over and come up with.
In all due respect,
And I understand what you're
it's
saying.
in city property. It's not own your property. So I don't know what difference that's going to make. I'm not trying to get in your way, Rick, but I don't know how any attorney can tell you you collect something, a property you don't own.
That's why I'm here tonight, Joe. Thank you very much.
Okay, but you understand, you're asking to get permission, which I have no problem with. Just tell us what the policy is. It's not land he owns. It belongs to the sovereign of the city.
Well, the policy's already there.
The law's there.
When was the law passed?
I can't tell you that. I don't know of any city that I will let you go out there and put stuff on property you don't own. And that's what's got us in the mess. So,
I know that.
I'm sorry, Rick, you're done as far as I thought from your comments. I'm trying to have a dialogue up here with my bosses. I'm not opposed to whatever y'all want to do, but it needs to be carefully thought out to where whatever you do can be uniformly enforced. And what happened, it all started with rocks, and then all of a sudden fingers start getting pointed, and you guys fortunately most of the time are out of the limelight, but we're out there trying to sort it out. And I want you to give that serious deliberation. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying think about it. You just can't make an exception now.
And also, we've got an ordinance coming up to dealing directly with this in a few minutes.
Yeah, right away.
Okay, so do we have a second to Councilwoman Long's motion? No second, no motion.
Thank you for your time.
Anyone else like to speak about anything that's on the agenda, not on the agenda,
No.
in the world?
Sorry I was late. Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Catherine McMillan. I'm on the Board of Directors of the Port Orange South Daytona Chamber of Commerce. And tonight I represent the Economic and Development Committee. And I just wanted to thank the City of South Daytona for your involvement in our monthly meetings at the Economic Development meetings. And just thank you for your continued partnership and open dialogue with the business community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the partnership. Anyone else? Sir?
Hello, I live at 1930 South Ridgewood, John Bringus.
I'm sorry, sir, your name?
John Bringus.
John Green?
I just want to thank you for having this city council meeting. It's my first meeting. I don't support the religion mixed with government, such as the use of God or prayer. This is my first meeting, though, so I'm really out of the planning of that. I just want to say it was also a nice town and well maintained. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone hearing none, I'll bring it back to the diocese. City manager's report.
Won't take long, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. We have a master public information officer now among our ranks. He's recently finished the coursework through the Federal Emergency Management Association, FEMA. Ms. Jane Willard, stand up and recognize these are rare. We're deemed rare in their talents. Her master's is in public information to FEMA is rare also for our county. Congratulations, Jane. I want to join in, if I may, in congratulating you, Nancy, for retirement. I can tell you that I've worked in this business for 4 decades. I've worked with a lot of council members, and you've always kept me on my toes. And to be honest with you, you've been a swell boss. I'm going to miss you. Enjoy your retirement. Finally, the last item, Mr. Mayor, is that you have your next council meeting scheduled for November the 13th. That's all I have to report.
City manager's report. I'm sorry. You're not there yet.
I'd just like to say, Nancy, it was a real pleasure working with you, and so I'm seeing you once a month or twice a month, or however much it was.
Well, thanks.
Good luck with everything you do.
You've been a great support too, so all of you have. Thank you.
So we have no old business, new business. Ordinance 18-15. Scott, if you would, by title only.
Ordinance number 18-15 by title only for first reading. An ordinance of the City of South Daytona, Florida, amending Chapter 14, Article 5, Sections 14.62 through 14.79 of the City of South Daytona's Code of Ordinances entitled Communication Facilities Within the Public Rights of Way, as provided herein, providing intent and purpose, applicability and authority to implement, providing definitions, providing for registration, for placing or maintaining communication facilities in the public rights of way, providing requirement of a permit, providing application requirements and review procedures, providing for a performance construction bond, providing for construction methods, providing development and objective design standards, providing for fees and taxes, providing enforcement remedies, providing for the administrative correction of scrivener's errors, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Need a motion for approval, please.
Second.
Mr. Yarborough.
If you recall, it was December last year, and we came to you, staff, and said we might want to put into effect a moratorium for 6 months until we can get you an ordinance to address what the legislature that previous session had done on these micro communication devices in the right of way. It essentially stripped the authority of local government to regulate. You adopted the moratorium that expired in June and July. And we're a little late getting you this document. For you that have sat down and read all 80 pages of this, it's like reading an encyclopedia. It was tough, but we also read it. We went by with the attorney that used to be broken over in the state of Florida, out of South Florida, helped us, got the draft. Scott, Wes, and I spent quite a bit of time with him going page by page. We think we got a document that you could feel comfortable, does not violate what will be coming out of the FCC with their new rules. And they have already, they're going through the waiting period now, which pretty much complements what the state of Florida has done for local government. They're determined to get this product out there for public use, regardless of the consequences. And what we're trying to do is give us some say on where and how and when you'll restore it in the process to make sure it's done right. If there's any questions, I'm sure one of us here can answer.
I don't have any questions, but the bottom line is you're going to see a lot of different stuff on the roadways and up in the air and attached to poles that we haven't seen yet.
That's what I'm hearing.
So, and it's a lot of paperwork for staff.
Councilman, are you on that committee? Are you on communications?
No. But last convention they had a session on it, and they went through it in detail, and it's a mess.
I was on that committee years ago, and this was coming down the pipe, so I was out here.
Oh, I was just going to say that in my last meeting, I want everyone to see how thick this is. There's a lot of work here. But yeah, it seems like it's very detailed, but it seemed like it really covered any questions or any things that might come up. So it's a good, I think it's a good document to handle what may be coming in the future.
This is a public hearing according to our attorney here, so if there's anybody in the audience that might speak for or against ordinance 18-15. Seeing and hearing none. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Scott, if you would, 18-16.
Ordinance number 18-16 by title only for first reading. An ordinance of the City of South Daytona, Florida, amending Chapter 14, Article 4, Sections 14-51 through 14.75 of the City of South Daytona Code of Ordinances entitled Public Right-of-Way Use, as provided herein, providing purpose, applicability, and authority to implement, providing definitions, providing requirements for permit when installing, constructing, placing, altering, or adjusting any facility owned over or under a public right-of-way, providing application requirements and review procedures, providing insurance requirement, providing for a performance construction bond, providing for construction methods, providing for permit exceptions, providing enforcement remedies, providing for forced relocations, providing for an administrative correction of scrivener's errors, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Need a motion, please?
Move for approval.
Second.
Chair votes.
Okay. What happened is we started working on this 80-page document which we approved the first reading. Just a second ago, we found that we needed to go back and we found some holes in our existing right-of-way ordinance. And we consider these housekeeping. We also consider them necessary to make the first ordinance you passed on these communication devices compatible with our right-of-way ordinance. So that's what we're bringing to this amendment.
Any other comments?
No.
This is first reading, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Got to 18-17.
Ordinance number 18-17 by title only for first reading. An ordinance of the City of South Daytona, Florida, amending the city's comprehensive plan by amending the capital improvement element, coastal zone element, future land use element, housing element, public facilities element, and transportation element of the South Daytona Comprehensive Plan to include revisions recommended by the 2017 South Daytona Comprehensive Plan Evaluation and Appraisal Review, authorizing transmittal, providing for conflicting ordinances, severability, codification, and effective date.
Need a motion, please?
Move to approve. Second.
Chair votes.
Every 5 years, we are to bring to you, and you are to give us input and adopt the transmittal of 11 elements to a comprehensive plan. 5 of those elements were brought to you back in the spring, and they were transmitted to the state, and we have their comments, and they have been incorporated into what will come to you after we get the comments back from the state, if you're adopting 6 other elements. And we'll be bundled up until you, hopefully, before the first of the year, with 11 elements for state comments. This is the second leg of the 11 that we need comments on, which 5 we've already got back. You understand the process. You approve them, goes to the state, they tell us what we got to put in there, it comes back to us, we try to massage it in our future, you adopt it, and we're done for 5 years.
Any other comments?
Well, I just wanted to say that I really like that we have added the sea level rise and flood hazard. That's future thinking. Thank God we're talking about it. And the other one was the autonomous cars, which we know may be coming. So I thought that, I think it's very well done. I think you guys revised it, or the staff revised it very well, and I'm glad to see that they're thinking ahead, futuristically.
Someone read it.
I did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Scott, if you would 18-18, please.
Ordinance number 18-18 by title only for first reading. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of South Daytona, Florida, approving the First Amendment to the Master Development Agreement approved by Ordinance 12-17, which rezoned the property located at 3230 South Ridgewood Avenue to PUD Planned Unit Development, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Need a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
Chair votes.
Okay. So we take you back 6 years of the public back. I know we've had a lot of dialogue, one-on-one with your staff over this issue. Ralph Piano owned the property on the south end of the city on the west side. Came to us in order to put in a rezone and regional plan unit development where you approved the project, giving a huge reduction in, at the time we had large reductions on the spur development in our impact fees. I think it went from 300+ thousand down to 80. You approved the apartment complex with certain stipulations that was memorized and recorded in the development agreement. The Mediterranean and the call for block and several other conditions, but it was the motif was Mediterranean. The property has since sold. The new owners met with staff a little over a week ago and said, look, we'd like to, for the council of the city to consider making some changes to that since-old development order. The zoning carried the development order when it sold here. So we have met with the owners and the developer, trying our best to see what we could feel comfortable representing to you for amendments to the six-year-old development agreement. John is going to walk you through the project and where the requests were made by the owners for amendments and where we feel comfortable recommending these amendments to you. The owners are out here, and I'm sure they may have something at the end of this presentation that they'd like to say, and I know you may have questions for you. So can we start that way, Mr. Mayor?
Absolutely.
Community Development Director, it's all yours.
Thank you. John Dillon, Community Development Director. As Mr. Yarborough was saying, this project's been going on since 2012. It sat dormant for a while. New owners recently purchased the project, and they'd like to get started on it. In an effort to make it more feasible to build, I think the reason it didn't move forward for a long period of time was there was the numbers just didn't work. There was too much cost in the development to make the numbers work for this type of project. At least that's the feedback we were getting. So when we sat down with them, they gave me a list of items that they would like to have modified from the original developer's agreement. I'm going to go through quickly, and of course, everybody knows where the project is. This is the proposed site plan, and of course, this area down on the bottom is Ridgewood Avenue. They've got like a roundabout that covers the entrance in. Clubhouse is there. It's outside of the gated area. The rest of the apartment complex is either behind wrought iron or black vinyl coated chain link fence. Anybody that's been down there, you'll notice that the retention ponds are in place. Most of the underground utilities are in place. And this is a very similar footprint layout from the previous project, mainly because most of the sewer lines and water lines are set in location, so they didn't have a whole lot of flexibility. Parking is afforded around the project, and it's still, they did add a few units to it. One of them was going from 248 units to 256 units. And the ratio of 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms is evened out. They added more 2 bedrooms and took out the number of 1 bedrooms and reduced that down to where it's about a 50-50 between those. And a small percentage of them are 3 bedrooms. But they still maintain the 2 parking spaces per unit, which we felt was rather critical, but they needed to stay there. Halifax Landing was built with a lower standard, and they've had parking problems with that ever since. So this is the site plan what they're proposing, and again, it's a fairly similar layout from the original project. This is an artist rendering of the entrance. As you can see, this is the roundabout in the front. This was given to you today. We just received this earlier today. I apologize because this has been kind of on fast track because the developer wants to move forward with the project, so it's been kind of developing since you got the original package. This was something that came in today. This is showing the Mediterranean vernacular, or the Florida vernacular style, and the gated portion of it would cover the entrance back. Across the western end of the roundabout and on the north end of the roundabout, those would be where you have two operated gates with keypads in there, which kind of protects the rest of the subdivision or the development. This is an elevation of the typical building there. You can see It is of the Florida vernacular style. These are the proposed layouts for inside. We did some number crunching this afternoon, and the 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms are increased about 13–14% in size over what was proposed in the original project. And the 3 bedroom is about the same. It's a little over 1,300 square feet. So they're nice size apartments. I think the smallest one is a little over 700 square feet, and then the 2 bedrooms 1,100 and some square feet, and then 1,300 for the 3 bedrooms. Of the things that were changed from the original developers agreement, the recommended changes are we went from the Mediterranean style to a Florida vernacular style. It went from block construction, and what they're proposing now is for frame construction for the project. It went from 3 stories to 4 stories, and the reason they wanted to do that, or the reason they're proposing to do that, is it allows them, like I said earlier, to expand the size of the 2 bedrooms. The ratio, it only goes up another 8 apartments, but it's a whole 4 new floors on it. So the number of units doesn't change that much, but the square footage of it do. And it just gives a little more breathable room. It gives them a little more landscaping around the buildings. There was a proposed 6-foot wall along Ridgewood Avenue.
I think you also note that even though they're going up from 3 to 4, the height stays the same. Does not exceed.
The height does not exceed the maximum height of 50 feet, which is allowed by code, of the livable space within the units. There was originally proposed a wall along Ridgewood Avenue, 6-foot high masonry wall, stucco. They're proposing to replace a portion of that with black wrought iron, and then a portion of it down at the south end of the property, which is around there's the clubhouse, and this is the pool area here. And that area that wraps around the pool will remain a 6-foot high masonry wall with stucco. And then, of course, you'll have the black wrought iron fences, what they're proposing to go from this point on the clubhouse over and across and around out that isolates the rest of it. The rest of the project will be enclosed with a 6-foot high black vinyl coated chain link fence. And like I said, they will have 2 gated areas operated by keypads and monitored with a monitoring system to keep track of who goes in and out of the units. And that's pretty much the areas that they're requesting to have changed from the original development agreement. One other area which we talked about significantly, and it's vacillated back and forth, and it really hasn't come to a full agreement yet, is the material for the roofing of the buildings. Yes, sir.
The underground issue
The undergrounding was covered in the original development agreement. Who was going to pull the wires was not. We have since had a change in the code which requires the developers to do that, and they have agreed to underground the utilities fully in front of the project. And of course, within the project, we're required to have underground utilities.
The cost would be up to the city for anything above regular sidewalk and the street lighting.
There's going to be in addition to the underground and pulling of the utilities, they've agreed to put in a decorative sidewalk and decorative street poles. There will be a separate agreement, an incentive agreement that will be before you at second reading if we get there, on the reimbursement from the CRA. You'll sit as a CRA agency that will consider an agreement that would allow for the reimbursement of the cost for the sidewalk pole installations, cost of that, from the TIP revenue, which is the CRA revenue from this project only. So the revenue we get off the additional TIP revenue the CRA gets off this project will then be used to reimburse those 2 items as proposed in the agreement. That's not before you tonight. That will be before you next meeting, hopefully, with when you sit as the CRA agency.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. You did a better explanation than I could have done. So that's basically where we are with the project. We are still in discussion with the developer on the type of roofing. The original project was proposed to have a clay barrel tile roof on it, obviously a rather expensive proposition. We have talked about metal roof, we've talked about a concrete tile roof, and they've also talked about possibly using asphalt shingle roof for the apartment complex, and having a mix and possibly using that for the buildings themselves, for the apartments, and having the clubhouse, which is in the front along Ridgewood, would have a different type of roofing, which would be more aesthetically pleasing. So the developer is here this evening. Brian Milet is one of the represents the developer, and at this point I'd like to turn it over to him and let him spend a little time and talk to you about what they're proposing.
I have a question before.
Yes, sir.
You said that the living space was 50 feet? The height?
The height of it, yes.
So what's above that?
The roofing. I mean, it's the living space. You've got,
Another 10 feet, another 12 feet?
probably another 12 feet or 14 feet, somewhere here. So it's still well below what's going to be across the street. We're talking about 7 floors of living space. But it is required by our code that living space can't exceed the 50 feet in height. Yeah. Yes, it is.
That was my very next
Okay,
question.
yes. Yes, after conversations, we
It's enclosed, it's
went
not
back.
answered.
It won't be an answer roof. They've agreed to put the equipment back on the ground, so there's really no reason to have them answered flat, with a flat portion or the utilities. They won't be placed up, it'll be a fully enclosed roof, is what they're proposing to do now.
John, before you
Yes.
leave, could you describe the roof across the street, the proposed roof across the street?
The development agreement requires those to all be metal roof. Now, it's, they are condos, and the market's probably a little higher end, but they are in the development agreement required to be metal roofing.
John, I
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
question about the cement,
Yes,
or, the cement block, I guess.
no, that's the cement tile.
The cement tile. Now, we know shingles life, especially with hurricanes, can be quite limited. I know these are more expensive, but what would you say compared to shingles, the durability and how much longer they would last?
Obviously, it depends on the installation. I've seen some of them last quite a while, and what happens with those is they will start leaking between the seams. We've had a couple of houses in my neighborhood that have had fairly new roofs that they've had to replace the whole roof on that. So, and other ones I've seen last 30, 40 years. So it just depends on the installation and how it's done.
And across the street should be breaking ground.
Probably late spring, early summer. I imagine the both happen probably about the same time.
That's where
If this one moves properly, but this one
they're
moves.
raising.
Yes. Any other questions?
Not now.
I have about the wording of the document, shall we?
I didn't understand.
The wording of the document, I have a question about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, since we were talking about the undergrounding, and that's something that Sylvia and I talked about. In the memorandum, the wording is very clear about the right of way and bullet point 4. Is that wording in the First Amendment, bullet point 7, when it says all utility lines adjacent to the property, is adjacent to the property clear enough that?
Yeah. All the projects will have theirs under there. Now, they won't be overhead inside the property, if that's what you're asking.
Well, bullet point 9, I think, is talking about in front of the property.
Right, that would be the adjacent.
thing like that in a lot of data doesn't
Okay.
push
You know what I'm saying, just as
Yes.
adjacent, and you
Yes.
say, where's adjacent?
Yes.
So I
It's
just-
not attached.
Yes.
You take it down, I can
It
find it.
should say adjacent right away or something like that.
You say it's not this one stuff?
Yes, sir. Brian Milet. From the
Hi, sir, can you state your name and address for the record?
Sure. Brian Brian Milet. I'm at 18455 Southeast Federal Highway in West of Florida. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Austin McDaniel with the Untitled Land Company, 1900 Nassau Boulevard, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28205.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the time this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and congratulations, Ms. Noel. And thank you, Mayor and councilmen and women. What I wanted to talk about, the only area, I think after discussing the minor issues that we wanted to change, I think the only area that we had any discussion on that we didn't get to a final resolution was the roofing material. And I just wanted to shed some light on it, and then also have Austin here to take any questions if you had any particular about the actual materials or about the construction type. Austin's father and he are partners, construction managers on the project, and they, believe it or not, have built 122 apartment complexes. So it's a good thing we're partnered with them, so we don't make any mistakes. And they're northern Florida in this type of environment with these materials. So we're used to building down south with the different codes and the Miami-Dade codes. So we're pleased to have him as our partner, and he's here to answer the questions. What I wanted to get to is we, first of all, are happy to be part of the community. We're excited about the project, about closing, and helping to add a little bit more beautification to the roadway and to really expand here in South Daytona. It's been interesting for us, and we've learned a lot so far. One issue that we have is the roofing material, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't make any decisions without doing some research. So what we decided to do, Erica and myself, Erica's one of my associates and partners with Capital Apartment Group, we took a look at the other product that was out there. And we wanted to make sure that we met the standards or exceeded the standards, because it's really, for us, anything that we do, we try to actually do better than what the standards call for. And we went around today and we looked at 3 of the brand new apartment complexes that were built in the last year. And then we evaluated the last 6 projects that we did over the last 8 years from 2010. And we went and we visually drove in and we took pictures and we saw them, one of which, or 2 of which, David's father built. Austin's father built, David McDaniel. And it's Sands Park and Untitled Shore. And both of those projects, they're beautiful, using the lap siding board, same materials as we have, same entryway, pavers. They actually did some extras on the exterior of the buildings as well, and they all have the shingle roof. And on the Sands Park, they actually put the barrel tile roof on the main area where you can see it's about 15 feet above the grade, and you can actually see that from 10 feet away from the building, so it's aesthetically pleasing. And we have talked to John about that, and we would like to do that. We would like to actually put cement tile on the clubhouse without even having a recommendation or speaking with you about it. We know that it's something that you would like to see, so we'd like to do that, because I think from an aesthetic standpoint it would be much nicer from the road. And then all the other buildings, we're looking to have the asphalt shingle. And the reason why is because it dramatically changes, not just a little bit, but so dramatically that it would affect our ability to finance the project. And for us, we as developers, we can build anything. And you can use concrete if you wanted to, concrete block, which is the standards in Miami-Dade, because of our hurricanes down there are much greater, and those codes are much stronger. However, if you have those additional costs and the project is not able to be financed, you can't build it. If you had all cash, that's one thing. You can just build it anything you want to at the best and highest standards that you wanted to. But we, unfortunately, in this business, we borrow money to do that. We borrow money from the banks, and they're unemotional. They really are. We tell them what we want to do, and they don't even look at the pictures. They look at the numbers, and that's all they look at. It's very unemotional for them. For us, it's emotional, because we build communities, and we want to make sure we have living space that's great for the people that are going to be living there, and we want to exceed the standards. So with regard to the roofing material, we went around and we drove, and we saw that each and every one of these projects really did look beautiful. They looked, they were aesthetically pleasing, and they all used the same materials. For us, that would significantly affect our ability to move forward, and it would allow us to not have to revisit with the banks and the lenders to be able to see if we could actually build the project or not. For me, I found this out yesterday because we were talking about this just a few days ago. It was last week in the same office or the same room. And I went back and I ran it by our lenders. And the feedback that we got is it exceeded all of their requirements with regard to the percentages of construction to the overall project cost. So with that, we had to bring it to the attention of John as early as yesterday and this morning. So what I wanted to do is we brought, could you get those books? We brought some books to show what the projects look like, where they have the actual concrete tile or barrel tile on the clubhouse where you can see it, and then all the other buildings that you can really barely even see the roof line. And it's, we took pictures today too from 100 feet away, 200 feet away, where you really can't see. So it's not that big of a deal, but I'd like to also share that with you.
And then I think the next page has the, so that's what we're proposing is similar. We had the clubhouse and had a different tile, and then the rest of the buildings had the asphalt shingles. So this was similar to, it's the...
I visited the...
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah,
I went up last Friday.
I drove up there also.
What's the cost difference?
Very significant. I can.
It's about $600,000 in total between to go from asphalt shingles to cement tile.
Which is about 3% of the entire project cost of the construction cost, which is very significant. It can push us over to the point where the lenders say it doesn't work for us. Thank you.
Wow, so if we don't agree, it's a done deal.
We don't have any other choice other than having to bring $600,000 more in cash and change the ratios, which we don't have. So again, I wanted to just point out that we are looking to meet the standards or exceed the standards. And we want to be uniform and be fair and equitable across the board and be just like the other apartment complexes and meet their standards and not try to do anything less, but do more. And it's exactly what the other brand new Class A apartments have built in the last 8 years. It's nothing less. It's exactly what they built. And it looks, it's very pleasing. And they've not had any issues. That's all. We wanted to point that out and get your feedback on that.
The pictures you're showing here is the one at Hall Williamson you're showing that's got the cement tile and clubhouse.
Correct. So that's, again, we want to come to a compromise with you guys and say, we want to have a workable solution and not just, say we can only do X, Y, and Z. It's, we want to work with you guys and try to figure out what's the best solution that everyone kind of gets a little piece of what they want. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to build a beautiful project for the community and have residents have a great place to live and enjoy going home at night. And you guys feel, proud of the project that we're building. And, the materials at the end of the day are it's a talking point, but something I feel like we can get through. And if it's a compromise of, our argument is that the clubhouse is at the front of Ridgewood, and so that's what everyone's going to see. The 4-story buildings are going to be higher up and more towards the back, so they're not going to be as prevalent off of the main road. So that roofing material will be a little bit harder to see. And so that's kind of our thought process and our proposal and trying to work with you guys to try to figure out a workable solution for it.
Yes.
Please come on.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Erica Stillwell. I'm one of Brian's partners.
And your name, please.
Erica Stillwell, 1631 Riverview Road, Deerfield Beach, Florida.
Thank you.
I also wanted to kind of just mention that I think these, the roofing materials, both the concrete tile, all three, the concrete tile, the metal roofing, as well as the architectural asphalt shingle, which we're proposing to use, do fall within the guidelines of the Florida vernacular, your design guidelines. I just want to make sure we say that as well.
Thank you.
I have to ask a question of curiosity. When you go from metal roofing to concrete tile, you have to increase the roof trusses spacing and...
No, the loads are pretty similar through. I mean, the weight difference is not substantial where you would drastically change the design of the project. The structural engineer, when they design the plans, knows what the roofing tiles does, and they would design it accordingly to fit that load bearing. But it's not so significant. It would be a huge difference in how they were prepared.
What is the cost difference? Because we know concrete would last longer, and the metal roofs, they can last a long time. And we know that shingles especially with hurricane force winds, are limited. So that factor should be considered also. But what would be the difference, like across the street, we're having the tin roof, correct? And what about the tin roof that you had originally proposed? What would be the cost of that as compared to the concrete?
The metal is actually more expensive than the concrete.
But it's long lasting.
My conversations with the GC that we've worked with in the past and their roofing subcontractors actually said that metal in an area that has a lot of seawater in the air actually can deteriorate quicker. So he's advised us against using it regardless of cost, just from a erosion control standpoint. So that was a factor as well, regardless of, and it just happened to be the most expensive anyway. So that's why we kind of gravitated towards more of the cement tile as a compromise like that.
Well, there's a wide range of asphalt shingles, so what specifically are you thinking about using?
It would be I can get you its spec on it, a detail, but it's a high quality asphalt shingle that you see driving around most of the Class A apartments in the area. Again, if you want a spec, I can send that to you.
Well, I guess the point I'm trying to make is you can go from one that's kind of basic to one that has a good architectural look.
To answer your question, yes. I mean, from our standpoint, it's in our best interest to put a roofing material that's going to last. I mean, we're at the end of the day going to be maintaining that for X number of years, so we don't want a product that's going to have to be replaced every 2 years. The idea is that we put it on and it lasts 10, 15 years. That is again, it's in our best interest to do that, because regardless of us having to build it, we then have to maintain it afterwards. So we factor that in when we do it, and the idea is that we would have a high quality asphalt shingle on top.
One other point is that literally the highest level and the highest quality asphalt shingle we can use that, and it would still be affordable for us. It would still actually make the project be workable. So we would be able to do that.
I guess from my perspective, when I heard you guys are buying a property and going to move forward, that was tickled pink. But then when I saw the stick construction, and I'm thinking, we're pretty close to the coast here, as opposed to the one up at Holly Hill or Daytona. And the other items that are not a biggie, and then to have the roof on top of everything else is kind of a surprise. That was kind of a disappointment. So, not to say that you can't make the asphalt shingle roof. A lot has to do with color and choice of shingles and so forth. I mean, there's only so much you can do with it, but it's not a metal roof. Didn't want anything to distract from the project across the street, and hopefully the projects to come. Hopefully there's going to be several.
The idea that we're trying to do is they're going to be a great complement to each other. I mean, to put, they're obviously a little bit higher price point than what we would be, but again, ours are rental versus sale, and the idea is that we're a great partner with them, and we attract buyers and renters into this area and create a nice community in that area.
And use the term Class A apartment. Explain that a little bit.
So Class A is essentially the highest renter profile. Class B would be a product that's a little bit, call it 5 to 10 years older, a little bit older. The finishes are not quite as nice. All the units that we would have granite countertops, and nice electrical fixtures, nice plumbing fixtures, washer and dryer included, LVT throughout, stainless steel appliances. So that type of quality, and so that's labeled Class A is kind of the thought there.
So from a price point, what you're expecting the market, and forgive me if you don't know all these properties, but what you have, the one up there on Williamson, the one out by the interstate I-495, the one across from the Pavilion, Port Orange, those are assumed are all Class A. Is your price point going to be able to be comparable to that, if not proximity to the water and stuff? I mean, is that what you're targeting?
Yeah, our goal is to have a renter profile very similar to what those have, and for us to justify the rents that we're building this under is we have to meet those, and so our goal is to attract those and make it those rental profiles very similar to what you guys have seen in the area.
What we found is, and this is up and down the entire coast, is that people want to live closer to the water, and if there's an option there, they'll want to be able to walk or ride their bike to the beach. That was exciting for us. that we could actually have a bike ride to the beach in minutes. And we think it's good. We think we're going to attract people that really, like that type of lift.
And checking out your website, it says you build and you manage properties. Is this going to be a build and manage?
Yeah. This is our goal is to build properties and keep them in a portfolio. That's what we're doing. We've built high-end, very high-end multifamily projects on the water on Palm Beach Island. We're finishing up a project on the beach in Highland Beach right now, and that product is for sale. So we work ourselves out of a job all the time.
So humor me just a minute. The projects you're building down south are concrete buildings?
Yes.
And the roofs on those are?
Yeah, the one we're building right now is concrete block, and then the rooftops are cement, and the units are $6.9 million each per 5,000 square foot down.
I guess my question, and going back to what we're talking about, is all the properties that you've built in this area are further inland than what we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen the pictures of the panhandle just like everybody else has in this room. And my grandfather was a carpenter. His number one rule is, son, don't live in a stick house.
Yeah.
So when a carpenter tells you that, and this is what's being into your head for the last 15 years.
20, 30 years ago.
I question.
Yeah, 20, 30 years ago, I would definitely not want to live in the stick house that was built 20, 30 years ago. But the product that's built today with the standards today are much, much better. If you want to speak to that at all.
Yeah, no, it's like you said, I've seen the photos as well, and I think, I can't make the general statement, but a lot of those are a little bit older and built in a time where the codes were not as strict. I mean, a stick frame, we would have to adhere to all the current Florida building codes and even on the coastal codes. I mean, there's certain adherences that we have to do on. We have to have probably impact glass for hurricane resistance. So all of our glass will have to be higher rated so that it would withstand high winds. And so those are examples of stuff that we will just have to build in order to do it regardless of whether it was stick or masonry block. So the idea is that if a storm did come through here, it would withstand quite a bit of wind and rain.
I'm going to go back and finish my thought. I was going with your business model. So you build, huh?
Oh, talking to the mic. Okay,
You're going to start talking to me now on your last night? I was going to say nice things about your closing comments. You build them, I assume you get them to a point where they're pretty full, and then you turn them over to sell them, right? Because you need the ability to have that capital to do another project.
Well, we can make a choice. Our model is to hold the product, and if there's an opportunity to sell, and we decide as a group, which is a large group, to sell, they will. But I'm the managing partner, founder, majority shareholder, and our really goal is to build the property and hold them. And in fact, there's some tax codes that really give us incredible incentives to go well past a decade. And you're familiar with the Opportunity Zone, which this project is inside the Opportunity Zone, and there's incredible tax incentives to go past the 10-year period where there's no capital gain at all, zero total capital gain on any gains on the property.
Forgive me where I'm not holding you to it. I'm an accounting degree in MBA, so it's way my great words.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to make a buck. So, you're obviously building this into a framework of what you think you can get for rent and how you can keep that profitable on a month-to-month basis. But I think I'll speak for myself and maybe some of my counsel. You're probably not the person replacing the roof. Because the roof might, 10, 15, 20 years. So those things, shingles, those quality, those kind of things that we're concerned about.
Yeah,
We're trying to leave that lasting legacy and stuff like that. I'm not implying that you're going to be a building god.
No.
You know where I'm going with that.
No, I get it. And the nice part about that is that the roofing material is not nearly as expensive as the concrete or the metal. So you could replace that material twice and get 40 years. If you go 10 years and then gain 10 more and 10 more, you could go 40 years out by just doing it twice, and you'd still be less.
From a purely business standpoint, I mean, you're right. I mean, but if let's just say hypothetically in 5 years it was sold, it's in the buyer's best interest to maintain the property because he wants the renter he wants to maximize his rent, and that's why he would buy the property. So if he has a leaky roof or doesn't take care of his property, renters are going to leave. They're going to go somewhere else. So again, that's just from that standpoint.
No, I understand. But part of you have to understand, part of it is this whole process is the relationship you build with staff up here, right? And so sometimes it's a leap of faith as the councils make decisions, and then the people we take those leaps of faith. It's like this PUD was with someone else.
Yep.
You know, so that's all involved.
One more question. On your, well, the original design is going to be concrete, stucco, finish, exterior wall. And you've got other buildings, as you have, with stucco, concrete. I assume you still have several
That are.
that you rent that still have, they're concrete with stucco finish?
No, we have for sale product that we've sold. We have sold those properties. And we don't have any properties right now that, I mean, I know that you're following.
No, yeah, we don't have any masonry block buildings or stucco. I mean, the market these days are the wood frame with the cemented siding, which is, and we'll have brick or stone accents throughout that kind of offset depending on the area that you're in.
The only reason I ask is because it seems like stucco, the maintenance of stucco as compared to masonry board, light siding, so forth, it's a whole lot less intensive on a regular basis. And is it more apt to require much more maintenance? And if the maintenance isn't done up to snuff, is it going to deteriorate in looks over the years?
No, I think from a stucco standpoint, there's, I've heard horror stories with that as well. I mean, I think at the end of the day, as Brian was saying earlier, it's about the application. And if it's done correctly, then it should maintain itself for several years, and the maintenance of it should be relatively minimal. I think regardless of whether you had stucco or stone masonry, whatever, the application is the same. If it's not done the right way, then you're going to have issues.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, the lap board.
Assuming it's done the right way.
Assuming it's done the right way, yes. I mean, I think the maintenance of it is relatively similar. I think the cost standpoint is pretty different as far as the masonry stone. And personally, I like that look over the stucco. But again, it needs to fit with the area and the design guidelines and everything like that. So.
Any other questions for us?
Thank you both.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Scott, you want to explain this?
Yeah, what has been, I provided out to you, I wanted to make sure you had the last version of the First Amendment for the PUD. And you'll notice on the second page, paragraph 8 is in caps there. It says we need to insert changes to architectural style and roofing material in there. Basically what this document does is it modifies the PUD that's already been in place. And it says that, but for what's changed in here, the old PUD, the existing PUD stays in full force and effect. So this changes the existing PUD. If it's not changed in this document, it will remain pursuant to the existing PUD. So and the one area that needs to be identified is kind of put in there as a space-saving location is architectural style and roofing material. And I don't know if you want to get one. I don't know if they have the last version.
Will it need to go into the detail of clubhouse versus residence?
I think it needs to have the level of detail so that you get a product that you're expecting to get. I guess it would be my response. So.
Just so I'm clear, we're asking for this to be approved with two very large blanks?
You're not approving it tonight, it's first reading.
Okay.
So it's going to be modified between the first and second reading.
All right.
And so there could be other changes. We always change, we don't always, but sometimes we change ordinances between first and second reading. So this is part of that ordinance. And well, it's not even resolved today. The roofing material and architectural style is not resolved to the point where it can be put into this document. So we need to put into this document what you would like, and then they need to agree to it, or we don't have a First Amendment.
For the mayor's question, this keep the ball rolling, and we then have to bite at the apple in second reading.
Exactly.
So my question that I asked John earlier about the 50 feet, if I look at number 4 here, it says but the maximum height is 50 feet. It doesn't say living space. It says maximum height of 50 feet.
I wouldn't clarify
so is the building
that,
50 feet, building 62 feet from what I heard from you.
Well, if you read what it says is but the maximum height of 50 feet. How the height is measured and the items excluded from calculating the height remain the same.
Which
You go back to the first one and it tells you what 50 feet. 50 feet and it specifically identifies what's not included in the original PUD. It talks about, I can read it to you if you like. Let's see. And our code also defines it, but ours,
Maximum level building at 50 feet exclusive of roof mounted mechanical equipment, antenna, elevator house, and exit stairway.
Right.
There.
and other non-habitable accessory decorative service features.
Okay.
So that's what I just wanted to make it clear that they can't. There's still we're going from 3 to 4 stories, but the maximum height house calculated and what's included and excluded is not changing at all.
Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Do we have to be specific about the roof?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we already have a motion and second.
Excuse me? We already have one?
We have a motion and a second, but not about this change.
It's past 7 o'clock, I'm not.
I would recommend we do like a motion to amend, to insert the language. But there's two choices you have. One, you motion to amend to insert the language in. Or you can just say, staff direction is going back with this for second reading, the language. However you want to do it, it's going to come back for second reading with the revised language in there for the architectural style and the roofing material. However the mayor wants to do is fine with me.
Well, I can't make the motion, but
We have, let me make sure I'm clear on this, Scott. Can the motion not be,
We already have a motion.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the motion's done. Now what we're asking for is direction from Ms. Bond to fill in the blanks. Can you give it to us, please? So we
Right, and it can be in the form of an amendment to the motion or just direction, and we'll bring it back the next time. And if we don't come to an agreement with them based on your direction, it ain't coming back.
Brought the conversation to one, so direction to staff to insert for 8, right? Architectural style roofing material. Based on tonight's conversations, would be asphalt shingles on the residencies, on resident buildings, along with concrete tile slats.
Concrete tiles.
Concrete tiles for the clubhouse. It's two boats, right? Clubhouse and clubhouse.
I think they're just proposing to use the clubhouse for the concrete tiles and then
Okay, yeah.
all the living units for that.
With clubhouse for council's consideration on second reading.
And the architectural style is what now?
So I understand you're amending the motion to include shingles, notwithstanding the clubhouse.
So it's a motion to amend to allow asphalt signals on residencies and concrete tile for clubhouse. Correct.
That's what I'm throwing out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that was a motion to amend?
A motion to amend.
Okay.
Second? Second?
You have a motion and a second to amend this.
I'm not crazy about asphalt tiles.
Well, can I just ask a question and then again, if one of you would come on? Now, like you're saying that if you go with the concrete, it's going to cost $600,000 more. Have you talked to your financiers to see if you could possibly come up with that? Because to me, as I said before, the concrete's going to last twice as long as the asphalt, which is going to be a money savings in the end. And it may come out to be very close to what the difference in the cost is. So have you approached them about seeing if you could get more financing for making it all, and also just to make it all uniform? I guess, just not to be picky, but I don't see the beauty of a contrast with the gray cement or, and then you have the tile, the shingles. So that's my question.
Okay. Yes, the answer is yes. And when it was brought up and I had to speak with our lenders, I spent hours and hours on the phone with them. And unfortunately, as I said, they're unemotional. And that's the difficult part that I have, because I'm emotional, because it's the project I'm building and they're putting our name on it. So I tried every way I possibly could to get them to change the percentage of how much cash versus how much money to loan, just like a house with the leverages. And they're not going to move. There's a certain amount that they're willing to loan on a project, and when they see an item that's this large, 3% of the entire budget sticking out, they question it. And then they look for an option for us, and we have to work within their percentages. So I tried all day yesterday.
And I'd like to go back to a comment I made about you got a good asphalt shingle, but then you got a very good asphalt shingle. It looks very nice.
Yeah.
And that's, if we go along with that's what I would expect.
Yeah. The highest grade asphalt shingle, as I said, that we can use, and we'll give you a spec, we'll turn it in, make sure you can see it, we can utilize, and it will work within the project. Absolutely. That's what we want. We want it to last.
Mr. Mayor, before y'all vote this sucker down, I want to make sure you're clear on something. You're changing the motif of what you've approved for a multi-million-dollar project across the road. What's going in on the structures in Port Orange from now. You understand that? And what you're doing is creating that change in the vernacular along with. I understand there's a fiscal note. Totally understand that. Everything in this world is about money. It's simple. But I also want you to be aware of the fact that these people bought this with the development agreement in place, knowing the cost of the structure. And they've asked to change that, and so far, I think we've been able to work through that. They've gone from a very expensive structure, Mediterranean, to tile roof, to now part of it actually sink. If that's what y'all want, fine. But I want you to be thinking about what's going to be across the street and what's already across the street and what Port Orange is proposing right down the street. Okay? Because I'm afraid you're going to look back on these.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one question I was meant to ask earlier. What changed from when you bought the property, knowing you had something in mind, as to what you're going to build? Why the drastic change?
Well, we didn't buy the property with the notion that we were going to build the CBS concrete block and the barrel tile. We bought the property with the hopes that we could come in and actually get the property built under the codes of the Northern Florida codes, so that we could actually build it within our financing constraints. That's what our hope was, because it is different, completely different. Val Fiorino? Yeah. And his wife, wonderful people. And we built a good relationship during the time that we worked with them. Really like Val. However, the project that was sold and approved was never going to be able to be financed. And that's probably why he sold it to us. Sold us the land. Because he couldn't afford to get it financed. Unfortunate.
Any other discussion?
Oh.
Anybody? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And then
That's where I'm at.
the first one will be in the...
No. The city attorney said that this is the first time we're going to get another bite at this. But then, city manager saying we need to get direction. This meeting, that's why.
Yeah, this is not your final say. You will have a second vote on this. Yes.
If he can come at the next meeting, if we're not tied into this, and you guarantee him that we're not.
Takes 2 readings.
Takes 2 readings, so they can bring some samples of what they're proposing.
Just to throw it out, so wherever they went, they can think about this. I anticipate we're going to sit down again on this First Amendment. They said some things here tonight that I would like to incorporate into this. They used the reference Class A rental. That has a meaning. That we don't say anything about that in our PUD. I'd like to incorporate that in. The highest grade asphalt shingles, or maybe we put the specs in. We get more detail into this. We don't have that today.
Right. Exactly.
To put in there. So I anticipate another meeting between this reading and the next reading where we can fine tune this document, add some things that they've said here tonight during their presentation, and also finalize the incentive agreement. And then we'll bring that package back to you in November.
Can I withdraw my amendment to my insert for 8 so that we can come back with all that put in?
Well, I mean, I would like to have the direction that, if there's a majority, if the council is willing to go in that direction, I would like that direction. So that we can then fine tune the language with that direction. If the majority of the council does not support changing this, then I think staff needs to know that so we don't go down that road. Does that make sense? If council's not willing to entertain the asphalt shingle, there's no reason for us to meet with them to come up with specifications and details about that. So I think it's helpful to have that amendment, but we'll come back with the detailed language at the second reading if this council is supportive of that amendment.
Yeah, let's do a roll call vote on
Talking about what Scott just said, moving in that direction.
The First Amendment, the First Amendment to the motion, the amendment to the motion is that there would be asphalt shingles on residency and concrete tile on clubhouse. And I've thrown in some additional stuff I'm going to put in there if you want to include that in the motion, that there would be references, definition of Class A rental, and that we have specs or highest grade spec'd out.
That's what I would support.
Okay. That will be the motion.
Okay.
Just my 2 cents, I still don't like the asphalt.
I don't like it either,
So,
Bill. But
you still get the biggest pipe, so.
You know, it could last. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios that could happen. You know.
At 10 o'clock, I could win 1.6, and we won't have this conversation.
That's right. We could build it ourselves. I'd prefer the metal, but.
But just, Scott, when we do this, if the vote passes the majority of the council, then you have your direction. If it doesn't, then where does that leave you on?
Then we're done.
Get to a situation we
Well,
have
if you, that's a good question, legit.
That's awesome.
You know, practically, I think it requires us to, it may require us to table the whole thing and meet with the developer. They may say, we're no go then. I don't know.
Well, that's why I was bringing up withdrawing the item, because I think this council is in support of the project and the concept of moving forward with this. We are having difficulty with this roof issue. So baby in the bathwater, that's what I'm trying to figure out here. You know, so if someone votes this thing down, are they voting down just because they're struggling with shingles, or they're struggling with the entire project? That gives a mixed signal to staff. And potentially develop.
I would think that the project we're all in favor of. It's the
correct.
The soap in the bathwater.
You can go forward. You know, you can still vote down the amendment and still then go forward with the main motion and vote on it. But if they aren't willing to, they being the developer, are not willing to proceed with this amendment, they can withdraw it. We won't come back to second reading. So that tells us you're not in favor of the shingle, the roofing issue, but overall you support the project. And then we have to sit down with the developer.
Because you guys are just giving us information today. No, I know. Well, I'm saying. So I don't want to run in. What I'm getting at is, I remember how the medical marijuana dispensary, which way left, sideways. What were we actually voting on? So that's what I'm trying to. and I'll be the person that speaks this as I make the motion. I'm doing it kind of just to keep the conversation going, but I have heartburn with the way I do, but I understand the business model. But I get, that Class A and that kind of stuff. I want to process that a little bit, again, to understand those kinds of things. I think, as you said, Joe, money's everything. Money will drive decisions around it. Money will drive the rent they can get, the drive whether those shingles get replaced at a good level or a poor level. Money will drive all of that. So, I'm sitting here struggling with that because there's more information than I have now than I did an hour ago.
I'll throw out another.
Because I was against shingles, and I'm starting to process some stuff, and so
I'll throw out another option for y'all is the motion table. And with this discussion, I think staff has a general understanding of what you're looking for, and we'll come back at next meeting and pull it off the table, and we'll have a revised document. If you want to do that. If you don't want to actually vote on something that you're not comfortable with, table.
A revised document to state exactly what you put down?
Yeah.
But the other part of it,
Isn't
I
that
love
the
where you're going,
amendment?
but we can vote this on without 8 filled in.
You can, if you want to. Yeah. I just don't know what, we came to you with this being unaddressed. It had to be addressed. And we were looking for direction on what to fill it in. Y'all talked about it. I don't know what a no vote or withdrawal, this discussion would do to the developer, his feelings about it. We can bring back a revised document. One way or another, we're going to bring you back a revised document. If you don't want to go out and say that we vote in favor of the shingles as discussed, you can withdraw your motion. You can vote down the motion and still vote the amendment as proposed with 8 being blank, and we have the understanding of what you're looking for. Or you can table it so this new document comes back entirely back to you for first reading again. Those are really your options.
Because in second reading, we are approving.
Second reading, you're approving.
Which we get really muddied if we approve something that we half-heart here and then don't want to vote it on second. That line item veto is not really something we want to do on second reading.
Right.
Can we ask the developer how he feels about the table to the next meeting?
Yeah. I mean, more or less just good.
Please.
I was actually going to ask to come up and speak again because I was listening to everything that was going on. I want to make sure that everyone realizes something very important. We are asking to put the same materials on as every other Class A apartment complex in the entire area. All 6 of those that we went to today, all of them that are considered comps in Class A, because they're newer within the last 7, 8 years. They have granite countertops, they have stainless packages, they have nice clubhouses and bigger pool areas and dog parks. That's what we're going to have. So we're asking you to allow us to do exactly what all the other apartment complexes has done from a materials and quality standpoint. We're not asking for a downgrade. We're not asking you to use anything less than that standard. We're asking you to allow us to use just that standard so we can actually say yes and move forward and do the project. And I don't like asphalt shingles either.
And
I would prefer to be able to, I wish that the concrete tiles were at the same price because I build concrete tiles.
And I can appreciate that. Those other Class A's are not a stone throw from the river. Those other Class A's are not across from condos that we're approving that will be coming up the same thing. So
I understand. And I build, you saw my website, I build multi-million-dollar townhouses and condominiums. Those townhouses and condominiums are going to be, if we sold this project on a per unit basis, they'll be 2 to 4 times the value of those units. So they can afford to do any type of building material they want to on there, because that's what we do. You ask for what we build, we use the best of everything, because we sell for $1,400 a foot on the beach. You can do it. You can have everything the best. There on the water, they're going to sell, and they're going to get 2 to 4 times the amount. I would do the same thing if I was building that project. I definitely would. We can't compete with them. Unfortunately, we're a rental property across the street that gets $1.35 a foot for rent. We can't compete. That's the problem. We can't compete with a product for sale.
And I appreciate from Bismarck, you understand where our...
Absolutely, 100%. I just wanted to make it very clear that I have never done this. When I got to get a property approved in Palm Beach Island, which is really difficult, a lot of people with a lot of really serious, views on things. And we've never asked for a down payment. We've never asked to say, we want to do something with that's a lower quality, please do it, and try to sell the reasons why, and give all the stories of the reason why. There's no story. We just want to be fair and equitable with the same uniformity as all the other Class A apartment complexes, and we'll pay for the additional cost for the clubhouse so that you get that visual aesthetics from the street and on that one building that everybody's going to see when they're driving by. And the other units, you literally can't even see the roofs. We drove by today, Eric and I, we looked at all these roofs, and we looked at it and we said, we can't even see the shingles, we can't even see the roofs. We had to go back across the street to look to see the top of the roof. When we were in the parking lot, you can't even see the top.
Is that because it's such a low pitch? What are you, like a 312?
I don't know why. What's the pitch on our roof? It's a material that you can't even see, versus it's very similar to if we were trying to decide on the material used for electrical inside the wall. You can't see it.
It just looks pretty low on the sketch.
Our roof, I'm not sure what the pitch is, 612? 412. 412. So again, that's all we're saying. We really are. We really are, excited about actually building a project here, and we would hope that one minor issue like that's going to make us uniform across the board can't compete with across the street, but that's what we're asking for. We're asking that if you can make that, if you can get past that, we're going to build a fantastic project, really fantastic. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, could you answer his one question about tabling?
Yeah, that's.
That's right.
Is 2 weeks gonna hurt you?
If we tabled this and brought it back for first reading again in November, and we could sit down with y'all and come up and fine tune this First Amendment with some additional language and maybe discuss, is that going to give y'all a lot of heartburn?
No, that would be fantastic if we could do that in that 2 week period. And
Okay,
get
well,
it
then
accomplished by then, that would be great.
I think
So
we're all
I'll go
good.
back and tell my lenders that we're on hold and we're waiting for some decisions.
Got a 2 week delay.
I withdraw my motion to all that fancy wording I said for
The single motion's withdrawn, and I would, if I were you, Mr. Mayor, I'd try to get the original motion withdrawn and just go back to tabling a motion if you can, which would mean, I can record this properly, Ralph Stromer and Lisa O'Neill withdrew the original motion for adoption, and they're going to supplement that with the motion to table.
Yes.
Okay. So we have an amendment in the original motion withdrawn. We have a motion table with Ralph Stromer and Lisa O'Neill for the record.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Parliamentary procedure says the motion to table, after we got voted after.
John, can you get with them and get on this meeting pretty quick?
Sure.
So we need to make a motion?
You heard, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
There you go. Not trying to rush you, you're not going anywhere.
Not going anywhere.
Did we just allow open containers while we take trash cans?
So the last thing on the agenda, as I see it, before we get into council comments, is where's the wording? Council selects 5 candidates for interviews, background screening, and Mr. Yarborough, you've gone through and selected everybody.
I have, thank you. I thought it would expedite the process. I don't know if if those that's county, you got a report, Mr. Parker? County.
Okay, so how about we do this?
Well, your staff has county. All right.
So we're going to take 10 minutes.
No, it's done.
Oh, is it done?
Yes.
Okay. We're not taking 10 minutes.
All right.
Parker, you're up.
And Freddie, you need to give him the results. They have to ratify the results.
very quickly, your staff and I had already talked about the county procedure, and they have brought it here to us.
The envelope.
Open the envelope, okay. Okay, see. My eyesight is getting real bad. Okay.
Would Joe reckon?
I'll let you read read the results, okay? The clerk.
Okay.
Read it into the record, and from that standpoint, kind of give you an idea. We provided you 2 memorandas, one dated the 15th and one the 17th. And you came prepared to vote this evening or to indicate your preferences of individuals to be interviewed. We had talked with the staff last week, and once you handed in your sheets, then she would calculate and then read into the public record what each council member voted and how they voted, or how they checked their preference. This is not a ranking document. This is just voting and indicating your preference that these are the individuals that you desire to interview. From that standpoint, if I can turn it back over to your clerk, she will announce the results.
Do you have 5 identified from the majority?
Probably 4.
We have 4.
Okay. Do you want to give them, or somebody read them into the record?
We will. Vice Mayor Young, Croteau, Gillis, Gomez, Irby, Lanham. Long is Andrews, Barkley, Gillis. O'Neill is Andrew, Gillis, Lanham. Stoner, Andrews, Barkley, Croteau, Gillis, and Lanham. Hall is Andrews, Croteau, Kirby, Lanham, and Murray.
Give them the tabulations too.
Okay, tabulations, we have 4 for Andrews, 4 for Gillis, 4 from Lanham, 3 Croteau, 2 Kirby, and 2 Barkley. Irby, I'm sorry.
Could you read those back? I'm shorthanded as fast.
Sorry.
Got it. 4 for Andrews, 4 for Gillis.
4 from Lanham. Jamie, 3.
I'm sorry?
Jamie Croteau, 3.
The rest did not receive the majority.
No.
Who was the third one with the 4?
Lanham, Gillis, Andrews.
Gillis, and who was the third one?
Andrews, Gillis, and Lanham.
Right.
So, Mr. Mayor, you have indicated there is 4 that have the majority of council that have indicated, and then you have some that have support from the remaining portion of the council. Is your desire to interview 5 or just to interview 4 that have received the majority of council votes?
Okay, I got 3. There's a 4th one?
Well, you had the majority of council votes.
You had
Andrews, Gillis, and Lanham have the 4, and Croteau has 3, which is the majority of council. And the others have 2 or 1. So the real question to you is, you have a majority of council that's got 4. Do you want to add an additional individual? If not, just proceed with the interviewing with the 4.
Or your simple majority.
With the simple majority, right.
My 2 cents is we interviewed 4.
Now, I proposed a motion in the October the 15th agenda packet. If that is the consensus of council, or the agreement of council, not the consensus, but the agreement of council, is that you would move to that the list of candidates agreed upon by the South Daytona City Council be invited to interview for the position of city manager, subject to the comprehensive background check.
I move that the list of 4 final candidates receiving a majority nomination from this council of the city of South Daytona Be invited to interview for the city manager subject to a comprehensive background.
Second.
We did a second.
We did, Ralph.
Yes, Ralph.
Am I hearing?
Shorthand and hearing, Joe. You might need to retire. Next will be the eyesight, right?
Any other discussion? Oh, that's been operating. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Parker, looks like the motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I was going to say, do we need to have a conversation around how we're going to do the background checks?
Okay. The question came from your internal staff. I think it's going to be a combination of the police department doing a portion of the work, and your staff will be responsible for either using your existing firm or some other type of contract to kind of both of them together, and which is we've kind of given you an idea of about what it would cost. Now that is not an exact number, but I just wanted to kind of give you what I have seen in some others, what cities are spending for comprehensive background checks. From this, we will be providing you with some additional questions. When I say questions, it's sample questions that council members may want to ask during the interview process. We will also provide your city attorney with some examples of contracts and some things of that sort, because as a template that has been used by other cities, and so that he can begin developing a template that is unique to the city of South Daytona, because there will always be some uniqueness in everybody's contract that has to also comply with state statute. Those will be provided to you as well. And then you have already set the interview dates, and we'll begin working with your staff on that. In the morning, we will actually notify all of the candidates of their status, as well as the ones that have now moved into the next phase. I want to be sure that they have complete knowledge that this is not just a simple check of education and credit check and things like that, that you are going to do an in-depth, comprehensive background on some individuals. And I just want to be sure that they understand that as we start the next process.
They'll have to sign the release.
They have to sign the release and all those items. But it does not need to be a perfunctory. We need to do a very comprehensive check.
I believe there's one other outstanding issue I had. It's a question about the night of interviews and meet and greet. Whether it's one night and there was a conflict of need, which to me I think this takes precedent over that. But if we can do it all in one night with 4 candidates, look for your guidance on it.
Well, let's see, you're going to be spending, the first day is where they'll come in. The second day is the day that you will be doing the comprehensive one-on-one interview sessions. And then that was our suggestion, you do the meet and greet that evening, and then, because you will be meeting all day the next day. And my understanding is there is the Volusia League that on that middle day. Now you can shift your interview dates one way or the other. That's up to the city council how you want to do that. But I think it's essential that you get an opportunity to see them in the public forum, since that was one of your criteria that you established, that you wanted those individuals to be able to interact with the public and with your business community. This will be one opportunity. You will get an opportunity to see them in that particular forum, in that particular situation.
Specific to that question, I'll throw it out there. I would think that what we need to do here should be of no consequence to the League of Cities.
No, absolutely.
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 So,
Yeah,
don't even let that play into it. As immediate past president, I think I can make that call for it.
So basically what we'd be looking at is the interviews on the 28th, they'd arrive on the 27th. Correct. The interviews on the 28th, and then the meet and greet on the 29th. Is that what everybody else sees?
But please understand that you're going to be giving 2 full days. out of your calendar for this particular activity. And I will be with you throughout the process because I think it's important that we stay true to the process. And so if you, during this period, if you have questions, then we can answer those questions for you. I think I've got my marching orders, and I think your staff has their marching orders, and I'll be at your city hall to see your staff this week. I think I have an appointment this week to see them on Thursday.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing the, can I put my name in the record just so that somebody asks you? My name is Ken Parker. I am a FCCMA, ICMA senior advisor, and it's been my privilege since the spring to work with this city council in the recruitment process for your next city manager. Thank you for that opportunity.
And we thank you again.
Thank you, sir. Unscheduled comments. Mr. Schoen?
Not tonight, thank you.
Ms. O'Neill?
Nancy, I'm going to miss you. It's
Oh,
been
yeah.
a pleasure working with you.
I'm sorry.
And I wish you the best. Wonderful retirement.
Sorry, Nancy, ditto. Sorry.
Vice Mayor?
You're so used to not.
Two things, three things. One is thank Mr. Parker for, it goes in the record. Thank Mr. Parker for his effort and the rest of the former city officials and county officials who worked with us for the search. I want to thank police chief and his staff. I know they did some training next door and the idea of school safety and school shootings and things like that, so I appreciate South Daytona. Police department getting involved. I think that was some invaluable training for them and mutually beneficial for the school over there. And let me thank Nancy. Sat next to you for 8 years. Good times, but no, truly, it's been an honor to serve next to you, and you truly have been the heart of the council. So I don't know if that's the same about the rest of us, but you're the heart of the council. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. You're a true Republican, and I'm a liberal, and I'm got along great. So.
We did get along great.
Yes, we did. Well, I want to thank everybody. First, I'm just going to I am going to ask that the council talk into the mic, because I've had people telling me that you can't be heard out there, so that's why I sort of yelled at you. Also, crazy, I've been getting phone calls about coyotes. So if we could make sure the city residents know that if you have a little cat or a little dog, watch it when it goes out there. The other thing that I want to bring up, after all of the county, city council and determines the manager and such, an issue that is environmental, which I should have pursued maybe a while ago, but now that this is my last meeting, I would like them to consider the issue of plastic in the city. And a lot of the cities are starting to try to encourage reduction of plastic bags and straws in their local businesses. And we all know that pollution is such a big problem, especially in the ocean. Now, since this is my last chance to, give us one song, I also want to, I can't talk to you, I never could talk to you individually about our choice for city manager, and I don't want to embarrass Les, but I just am going to say that when I looked through all of the packets, he was truly, I thought he stood out above all the others. I have worked with him now for the 13 years. He's hardworking and dedicated. He lives in our city. We really want someone who would be long-term and who loves our city as much as we do. And one thing that doesn't show in the resumes is the compassionate and caring side. Now, I have to tell you with Les, a couple years ago, we had a resident called Nick, 90 years old, 92-year-old wife who was in a wheelchair. Now, Nick called me because he had ducks coming up and, to quote him, pooping all around his wife's wheelchair on the porch. So I got hold of Joe and Les and I went out and we checked it out, and he actually pitched in money with me, and we were able to buy some fake owls, and we bought pellets that were supposed to deter the ducks. And so we spread them out there, and Nick was very happy, and then 2 months later or so, a big rainfall came. Well, it washed away the pellets. And so Les, on his own time and his own money, went out and bought more pellets and spread it out. So this is the kind of person we're talking about. A couple months ago, Betty down the street, they had to take a tree out. Now the city, I guess she wasn't happy with, they bumped her, you know how you get these phone calls. And Doug, get ready, because you're going to get them. How they didn't do the job as good as she wanted. So I called Les, and Les goes out there. By the next day, he's actually working himself. And he got them to do it correctly. And this is the kind of care that we get from he who has worked here for 15 years. So I just wanted to let you know my opinion. I can't talk to you individually. And I'll be gone in Malaysia. I'll be in Malaysia. So Doug's going to be over here in this seat the next time. But I just wanted to let you know that, Les, I truly appreciate your work for 13 years, and I wish you the best. And finally, it's been a great 13 years. It's an honor to serve, and I am going to ask Doug to come up here for a minute. You all know he is my replacement. And I'm going to give you this paintbrush, and you know what it's for, Doug. Do you?
Did you criminal mischief to the front of your house?
No, this is for the Fire Flood. The Fire Flood campaign. I'm going to give you a hug, and I want to say good luck. He's a good man, and he'll do a good job. So,
I can't top any of that. Jack, I don't normally give somebody else's wife flowers, and I very seldom give my wife flowers, so Nancy, it's been a fun 2 years.
well, thank you so much for the plaque and the flowers. I truly appreciate it. I love all of you.